Welcome. I'm Rich, and today I'd like to talk to you about buying tools. Now, we all buy tools, and we all wish we could buy more tools. And sometimes it's hard to get the tools we want. Now, I've done videos in the past where I've talked about how to do your workshop, get your workshop started for $1,000. Okay, that's getting started. You know, I've been in this for 50 years. I've been collecting tools and building things for that long. And I have to say, most of that time, I didn't have the tools I wanted, and I couldn't afford the tools I want. And even today, after 50 years, I've got a nice workshop. I've got a lot of tools here, and I can still always find something else that I want. Okay? I just can't afford everything I want. Now, I know there's people out there that, you know, they're a DeWalt fan and they buy just DeWalt, or they're a Makita fan and they just buy Makita. I get it. I want to talk to the rest of us. Now, I've never had the tool budget that I wish I could have. And I think a lot of us fall into that category. And getting new tools for us a lot of times means waiting till we can afford that tool or waiting for the opportunity. You know, for me, a lot of that has been, well, I need to do this project, but to do that project, I need the tools. So I use the project as an excuse to get the tool. And that's pretty much always worked out well for me because I end up using the tool for other projects, and over the long run, it ends up saving me money. But sometimes I want stuff and there just isn't the money for it, even if there is the project, okay? Well, there's a lot of different ways that we get around that. And one of the ways today that's available to us is Amazon. You know, Amazon has become the world's largest and most versatile marketplace. And that doesn't just mean for tools, that means pretty much for everything. But it's become a great place to buy tools. A lot of times, if you're looking for a tool, you know, checking to see if they have it at a better price on Amazon may just be the thing to do. And a lot of people will do that. My wife is famous for that. Everything she's going to buy, I don't care where she finds it, she'll check on Amazon to see if she can get it at a better deal from them. But Amazon opens up something else to us that's really worth considering, and that is the world of off-brand tools. Now, hold it right there. I know there's some people that are probably going to want to shut me off right now because they're not going to buy any off-brand tools. Okay, I get it. I understand your viewpoint. You like a particular brand, you like quality, you want to make sure your tools are going to last forever. I get it. We all aren't there. We all can't afford to be there. Now, if I was a professional carpenter and I was working on the job site 5 days a week, I'd want to make sure I bought the best tools that I could afford because I don't want those tools to die on me right in the middle of my workday and end up losing that workday and whatever income I would get from that work. But most of us are hobbyists. We do this for fun. This is our pastime. We make stuff for ourselves, for our families, maybe to give us gifts. You know, maybe we sell a few things at a local fair or market of some sort, but we're not making our living off of woodworking. We're not going to that job site where those tools are getting abused, not only by us, but the guys we work with, okay? So a lot of the stuff we buy, we're buying it, and we may not use it a lot. You know, I don't care who you are, you'll find that there are some tools you use more than others. The table saw, for example, is probably the most used tool in the average workshop because we found that there's so many different things we can use to do with the table saw, especially if we make sleds and jigs to go with that table saw. So the table saw, yeah, maybe it makes sense to invest a little more in that. But for something you're only going to use once in a great while, it probably doesn't. So that brings us to the world of what I call off-brand tools. Now, why are they off-brand? Well, because they're not a brand name. They're not a recognized brand name. Now, I got to say, some things that are today recognized brand names started out as off-brands. How does a tool or a manufacturer move from being an off-brand to a recognized brand? By selling lots of tools, by people liking their tools, by getting good reviews, by reaching a point where people look to them as opposed to somebody else because they like what they're going to get for their money from that company. All right, but they don't start off that way. Nobody starts off that way. I don't care who you are, you've got to build your reputation. And that's what's going on with these off-brand tools. Now, a lot of these off-brand tools come from China, but then again, most of the major brand tools that you buy out there are made in China as well. Even if it's an American-owned company or German or British or whatever country, the tools are probably manufactured today in China to the specifications of the company. All right, that's fine, you know, but China has learned from that, and China is now building their own tools. And, you know, 40 years ago, things that were made in Japan Well, the words made in Japan meant, yeah, it's probably a piece of junk. Now the words made in Japan means quality. Well, same thing is happening to China. What started off as, yeah, if it's made in Japan, it's a bunch of junk, is gradually changing, and we're seeing some quality products come out of Japan. The question is, if a product we're looking at is quality or not. So when we go on Amazon and we're looking for whatever, we're going to find name brand, we're going to find off-brand, we're going to find you never heard of it brand. All right, so how do you make your choice? Well, I think one of the major factors in making any tool purchase is making the decision, how often do I expect to use this tool? Now, if it's something you use all the time, like say a cordless drill or your table saw, those are the two power tools that get used the most. Yeah, you want them to be good. You probably want to buy a name brand if you can afford it, or you at least want to buy a tool that you have checked out thoroughly and you know is a good tool. That makes sense. Well, what about a sharpener for your chainsaw? How often do you use that? For that matter, how often do you use your chainsaw? Is it worth spending $350 or $400 on a chainsaw that you can use once or twice a year? Now, if you're making your living with that chainsaw, yeah, it makes sense. But if you're going to use it once in a while to trim a dead branch off your tree, or cut up a branch that's fallen, or maybe clean up a dead tree in your buddy's yard that you're going to turn into firewood, you probably aren't going to get $400 worth of use out of that chainsaw. So maybe it makes sense to buy the off-brand. Okay, so that's the first deciding factor. To me, a brand name, a lot of what you're paying for the extra money when you're buying a brand name is life expectancy. If we take, let's just talk about a common tool. Okay, let's talk about a circular saw. If you buy a circular saw, there's obviously a series of components in there, and somewhere there are some bearings in that circular saw. Now, bearings are interesting critters because you can get a wide variety of different types of bearings to do the same purpose. And when I'm talking about bearing here, I'm just talking about a round bearing. You know, I've got a shaft and we've got a bearing that's going through, that's supporting that shaft and holding it, okay? Now, at the low end of the range, you get plastic bearings, okay? Really, really cheap tools might have plastic bearings. I don't think you'll find too many with plastic bearings because it probably won't hold up that well. But then you can go up a stage from plastic bearings and you can go fiber-filled plastic bearings. Adds a lot more strength to the plastic, okay? The type of plastic makes a difference. Well, at the other end of the extreme, you've got ball bearings and then roller bearings. And those roller bearings, or even the ball bearings, are going to last a whole lot longer than the plastic bearing. They're still performing the same purpose, and that is that shaft is going through that bearing and it's supporting the shaft while it spins, and probably supporting the pressure of the shaft being pushed on by when you're pushing the saw through a piece of wood. Well, the roller bearing can do that much better than the plastic bearing. So one of the things you're paying for when you buy a circular saw is the quality of bearings that they used in the manufacture of that saw. And this is true of any other power tool as well, okay? Good bearings cost more. Designing the structure, the body, the casing to hold that bearing costs more. Building that casing costs more. And so the tool costs more. What are you getting for that? Longer life expectancy. So a lot of what you're paying for with high quality tools is life expectancy. The other thing you're paying for with high quality tools is you're paying for features, added features, okay? You buy well, let me just use my table saw as an example. I have a table saw. It's actually manufactured in England. It's called the Evolution Rage 5-S. It replaced a older, less expensive contractor's portable table saw that I had. And that was my table saw for years, okay? I had the opportunity to get my hands on this saw. What's different about this saw? There's two major differences, three actually, between this saw and my other saw, besides the fact that it's just physically larger and has a little larger motor. Number one, the fence is a whole lot more rigid, okay? Now, the fence on any table saw is critical. So the fence is both longer and the base of the fence is wider and it's more stable. I slide it back and forth and I clamp it down, and I don't see that bar shifting when I clamp it down. It stays steady. That's one of the added, we could say a feature, but it's also a quality item in that saw, okay? The second thing it's got built-in dust collection. Well, do I need the dust collection? I can get by without it, but it's nice to have it. I generate a lot of sawdust here in the workshop, And having at least one tool, it's got that built into the way the tool is designed, and I've got that connected to a shop vac, that cuts down a little of the cleaning. The third real feature it's got is that it's got a slider. Now, not too long ago, the only saws you ever saw that were sliding table saws were, about $3,500 and up. Okay, this is a fairly low-cost table saw. It retails at $499, and it's got a slider. So for one of the things I'm getting for the money with this saw is that added feature of the slider. So any tool, as you get to more expensive, you generally get better features as well. All right, but again, what if you don't use the tool a lot? If that feature is important to me on that table saw. The fence is important to me on that table saw. But what about a tool I hardly ever use? Really, what I'm looking for then is functionality, okay? And that I can get that functionality out of a low-cost saw or other tool just as well as I can off a high-cost one. So when we're looking for tools, and we're looking on Amazon tools and we see some of those off-brands, we really shouldn't just dismiss them because they say, I don't know who that is. Well, okay. Maybe you don't know who it is. Maybe I don't know who it is. Now, I've got a mix in this shop. I don't have any one brand that I can say is my brand, all right? I have brands that I like. I have brands that I trust. But some of the brands that I like and trust are not the top brands out there. I use a lot of Ryobi tools. Why? I'm a home woodworker. I don't need a $400 professional grade tool for something that I do once in a while. So I might buy the $100 Ryobi instead of the $400 Makita. Maybe you don't see it that way. My budget can only go so far, okay? So when we look at tools on Amazon, and we're going to run across all these off-brand tools, all right? Bound to happen. I don't care what you're looking for, you're going to find off-brand tools. Some of those are going to look really great, and some of them, we're going to look at the picture of them and you say, yeah, that's not too good. All right. Well, how do you know which ones are good, and how do you know which ones aren't? That's the real question. I mean, when you look at a tool on there, Amazon doesn't give you a whole lot of information in the structure of the way they've got their page set up. You've got 5 or 6 bullet points there, some of which may only have a few words and some of which may have a short paragraph. And I can tell you from my personal experience, because I've been a writer, that companies pay the low bidder to write those descriptions. And so you don't necessarily end up with a real good description of the tool there, okay? Farther down the page, you may have something from the manufacturer. Again, that may be good and it may not be good. If it's coming from China, there's probably somebody in China that wrote that who maybe doesn't, they speak English, they write English, but they really don't have an understanding. But what if they're not a woodworker? Maybe in China, they hire the low bidder too. I don't know. I've never spent any time in China. I've never done that much business over there. Even though I've bought products I know were made in China. Okay, so somebody writes this write-up about the product, and they're not a woodworker. They don't know what you and I need to know. They don't know the information we're looking for. So they'll tell us specifications, but they really won't tell us why that tool is worth buying. So the information is lacking. That's number one, okay? The second thing a lot of us look at is reviews. Now, let me tell you about reviews. Now, once upon a time, reviews were all only done by companies like, say, consumer product companies that had magazines and whatever. We're talking pre-internet days. And then the internet came along, and all of a sudden, then we got reviews that were online. And we had 2 different things happen there. Number one, the first thing we had happen is we had professional reviewers. And what I mean by professional reviewers is there are websites, and lots of websites that just put lots of reviews online, okay? Well, again, I'm a writer. I've seen this, okay? I'm looking at the other side of the lens here. Companies hire people to write those articles, and they generally hire the low bidder. Now, if you see any article online, I don't care who's done it, unless it's a well-established, reputable review site, what you're probably getting is a review written by somebody that's a low bidder. In other words, it's not written by an expert, all right? If you ever see a listicle, that's an article, that's a list that says the 10 best, the 10 best pencils, the 10 best tape measures, the 10 best circular saws, drills, electric sanders, whatever it might be, I will guarantee you that the person that wrote that list was a low pay or low bid, product, okay? And the way they found out that the 10 best is they went on Amazon and found the 10 with the highest customer rating. And they decided those are the best. What kind of confidence does that give us that it truly is the best? Where's the testing? Where's the hands-on experience with those tools or other items to find out if they really are any good or not? Where's the history where you see that, yeah, this tool has been run for 10 years and it still works or something like that? And so a lot of people, instead of that, they'll depend on customer reviews. Well, at the beginning, customer reviews were a great thing. It was a way for the general public to give their input on a product. Okay. And at the beginning, we got a lot of really good reviews that way because we got people's actual personal experience. Well, sellers learned from that. And now what we have, when you go on Amazon and you look at reviews, there's especially for a new product on Amazon where there's not a lot of reviews, there's a good chance those are paid reviews. In other words, the seller, usually not the manufacturer, we're talking a seller, a small volume seller that's buying those whatevers from China and having them branded in their name and they're selling them on Amazon. They pay writers to write reviews. Now, for somebody to write a review on Amazon, they have to own the product. Okay, so let's say I'm XYZ Manufacturing out of China or XYZ Tool Sales out of China. And I know I don't look very Chinese, but that's okay. And I'm trying to sell power tools on Amazon. So I've got a right angle die grinder that I'm going to sell on Amazon, okay? All right, for me to get people to review it for me, those people have to own the tool. So I will run an advertisement on a platform that does freelance writing, or that connects people with freelance writing, saying, I need people to write reviews of tools. And here's the deal. I'll give you the tool. I'll Amazon ship you the tool. Once you get the tool, you write the review and you post the review as if you were a real customer that has bought that product. All right. And you'll get to keep the tool and I'll pay you $25 to write a review, a positive review. And they'll get 10 or 20 people to do that. This is becoming common practice, if it isn't already common practice. So the first batch of reviews that you see go up on Amazon for any product are reviews that are paid reviews. In other words, it's propaganda, okay? It's paid propaganda. Some of them will be short, some will be a little longer, but none of them are going to reflect any real personal experience that the person has had with that tool. They may not even unboxed it. They may, okay, I've got it, now I can write a review. And they write their review based on what it says on Amazon about it and how the box looks. I mean, or maybe they open the box and they take it out and look at it and say, oh, this is how it looks. You ever see videos on YouTube that are unboxings? To me, unboxings are a waste of time. I don't care how it looks coming out of the box. I want to see how it works. Take that tool, whatever it is, and don't just take it out of the box and make a little cut with that saw. Find something that the saw isn't supposed to be able to cut and try and cut it and see if it'll go through it anyway. Now there's a review, okay? So that's what you're getting. That's what a lot of those customer reviews are. Are they still useful? They can be if you can get past the paid reviews and find the real reviews. Well, how do you find a real review? Look for a review. First of all, it's probably gonna be a longer review, but look for a review where somebody's sharing their experience using it. That's probably a real review. That's the kind of review you want to find. Look for an item that has a bunch of reviews. You know, if it's got 10 or 20 reviews, that doesn't tell us a whole lot. If it's got 132 reviews, that says, all right, a bunch of people have probably bought this product. Now, how many stars do they have? What do some of these reviews say? What do the positive ones say and what do the negative ones say? Now realize, when you're looking at reviews, there's two things you got to understand. Number one, people are much more likely to say something bad about their experience than something good, okay? So if you look at an item, whatever item, that die grinder we were talking about a moment ago, and you see a whole bunch of negative reviews about it, okay, look for the positive ones as well. Those negative ones tell us that people are saying, yeah, well, I'm pissed off because I don't like how this product is, so I'm going to tell people that I'm pissed off. But the people that like it may not say anything. So you got to balance that, all right? You've got to balance that. I don't care who you are. I don't care how good your products are. You're going to have an occasional bad one come out. Every company has that happen. I don't care who they are. Even Rolls-Royce has had problems with some of their cars. They're real good at taking care of those problems. And then when you call them up and you say, hey, my axle broke on my Rolls-Royce, they may not believe you. But as soon as they find out it's real, they will get you a new axle. And they'll put it in and they won't charge you. And they'll probably loan you another Rolls-Royce to use while yours is being fixed. So that's the difference, right? Okay. So look for those kinds of reviews. Look for the positive and negative. Now, the other thing you got to understand about positive and negative reviews is that when people talk about things, they're going to talk about what stands out in their mind. They're not going to talk about anything else. That's where you really want to be seeing experience, personal experience. If they start talking about, I tried using this thing and I couldn't get the saw to work right, and it turned out I didn't realize there was a double trigger on that saw. All right, that's real personal experience. That tells you something, okay? First of all, the double trigger tells you that they've built safety into it, all right? So those are things you can look for. Another thing you can look at when you're trying to look at something is look at warranty. To me, warranty tells me one major thing about any product, and that is how much confidence the manufacturer has in their product. If they're going to sell me a mini circular saw, and they put their famous 90 warranty on it, that's 90 second or 90 feet, whichever comes first, I know they don't have a lot of confidence in it. On the other hand, if they put a 5-year warranty on this, and the big manufacturers say putting a 3-year warranty on their saw, and all of a sudden I find a manufacturer's putting a 5-year warranty on their saw, that tells me they believe they've made a quality saw. You see, no manufacturer wants to deal with warranty claims. They don't want to pay warranty claims. That comes right out of their bottom line. So when they say they warranty it for 5 years, that means they believe it'll work those 5 years, even under rough conditions, without failing. That's what that tells you. So when you see good warranties, you know you've got a good product. Okay, so let's say you've taken a chance, you found something, you think it's going to be good, you buy it, you have it shipped into you, it shows up on your doorstep. What do you do with it? The very first thing you should do with anything you buy like that when you're buying off-brand, get it out of the box carefully. You don't want to destroy the packaging, because if you're going to ship it back, you may have to ship back. If you're going to ship it back, you need the packaging intact. Okay? Carefully unpack it, put it together, and try using it. Test it out. Put it through its paces. Okay? This little saw right here, this is a mini circular saw made by a company called Hychika. Okay? And I always mispronounce their name. I'm sorry, but nevertheless. And I did a review on this some time back, and this is as far as I know, made in China. Never heard of the brand before I did it. Got this in, and it comes with 3 blades. It comes with a carbide tooth blade, a high-speed steel blade, and a metal cutting blade. They say that thing is going to cut metal. All right, so I cut metal with it. They say I can cut through, ceramic tile. There's a ceramic tile blade with it. All right, it cuts through ceramic tile. But I tested it. I tried it out. That's a great little saw. How do I know? Because I put it through its paces. And that's the first thing you want to do. On the other hand, I got a set of blocks, supposedly precision measurement blocks. These are blocks that are in different thicknesses, ranging from like a 1/16 of an inch up to a 1 inch, okay? And they're used for setting tools. And it's actually a fairly common thing for machinists, but woodworkers are starting to use them for setting up like their table saws and their routers and things like that. So I ordered myself a set. It came in, looked beautiful. It's all nicely powder coated and everything, and came in a nice case, fitted slots in the case. So the first thing I did is I took it out of the case, and I took several of the blocks, and I took a digital micrometer, which measures down to 1/10,000th of an inch, and I measured them. And I found out that the block that's supposed to be half an inch, that's 0.500 inches, was actually 0.508 inches. It was 8/1000th of an inch off. Now that may not seem like a lot to some people, but if I'm looking at a precision measurement device, that 0.500 better be 0.500, or at the absolute worst, maybe 0.502. Sometimes when you check something out, you find out it's not as good as it's supposed to be. That was the case that time. All right, so what do you do when you find out you got something that you bought that's an off-brand, you bought it through Amazon, you got it in, you put it through the paces, you find out, something, it's not all that good. What do you do with it? Amazon has an absolutely wonderful return policy. And I have never had a problem returning anything to Amazon. You get online, you find your order history, you find that item, you say you want to return it, they'll ask you for a brief description of why. And if you say, it doesn't meet the description, which if it's low quality, it doesn't meet the description, easy, no problem. They'll either email you a label, or actually it'll come right in there on the screen, print out the label, and the postman will pick it up, or you drop it off somewhere, send it back, you get a full refund, no problem. And actually the refund comes to you not after Amazon gets it, but as soon as the carrier gets it. So if it's the post office picking it up, as soon as it runs it through the post office system, Amazon knows they issue the refund. That's how quick it is. So that takes away pretty much all the risk of buying off-brand tools. You get it, you test it out, it's not good, you don't like it, it's not quality, it's not going to do what you want. You pack it up, you ship it back to Amazon, you get your money back. Guess what? You're out nothing. And now maybe you can be one of those people to write a review about and say, it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. Don't be nasty about it, but write a review. If you're nasty about it, then people just blow it off, say, oh, it's just a troll, So you can, with great confidence, buy off-brand tools through Amazon. Just make sure that when you get those tools, you test them out, you check them out, make sure they're good, and if not, send them back. Okay, so what if you don't? What if you don't check it out? Well, Amazon's return policy does have a time limit on it. You've got, I don't know what it is, let's say 30 days, okay? You have to check their website on that. You've got X amount of time to return it. If you don't return it in that amount of time, it's yours. That's why it's so critical that when you get that item, you unbox it and you test it out for yourself. If you do it right away, you have no problem returning it. If you let it sit there in your shop for 3 months and just haven't gotten around to trying it out yet, and then when you finally take it out of the box, you find out it's broken, it's the wrong size, it isn't what you thought it would be, it's not as accurate as you thought it'd be, whatever, it's yours. So the way to eliminate the risk, I guess we can call it buy responsibly. Take responsibility for what it is that you bought, check it out and make sure it's good. And if you do that, you can buy all the off-brand stuff you want on Amazon, save yourself a lot of money, and know that the only things that you're financially responsible for are the ones that are good quality products that you're going to be able to use. That's what I've done. It's worked great for me, and it'll work great for you.